six-pack. A.J. Brown, look, I think a lot of people are getting kind of sick of this. I asked you about this yesterday on Pat's show, and I had a lot of Eagles fans in my mentions saying, like, you guys are basically just trying to make something out of nothing here. A.J. Brown's not getting traded. And then, again, it doesn't really mean anything. Guys do this all the time, but he listed his house yesterday around 5 o'clock. Where are we at currently with A.J. Brown and the Eagles and whether or not he potentially is going to be traded?
Wait, so let me get this straight. So the comments from Eagles fans yesterday were he's not getting traded. That's the prevailing wisdom, right?
I think it was just you guys are continually bringing this up and talking about it. And as far as we know, nothing is going to happen. Howie Roseman has said he's not going to be traded,
Okay.
but you guys continually are. Look, he's an unbelievable player, and there is some smoke around this, so people are interested in it. But yeah, I think they're kind of just thinking like, well, the more you talk about it, yeah, maybe the more likelihood there is that he is going to be traded.
And the things that I saw on social media last week were the deal is done with New England. He's going to New
exactly.
England, right?
Exactly.
So, and the truth of the matter is, if I could break it down in a semi-informed way, I think the truth is right in the middle of those two situations. I think that it is not a done deal, nor a certainty that he's going to New England. Like some people were saying on social media last week, there's no handshake agreement between the Patriots and Eagles right now. It is certainly not a lock. New England could go draft a receiver. It could bring back Steph Diggs for all we know. It could hit the wide receiver market. We don't know what they could do. But where they are today in late March might be totally different in June 1. So to think that it's a lock that he's going to wind up in New England, that would be incorrect. And to say that it's a lock that he's not being traded also would be incorrect. The situation remains unresolved. The situation remains up in the air. Do we think he's getting traded this or next week? Probably not. Do we think there's a window at the draft? There is. I think there's an opportunity there that something could happen, even though I think the Eagles would prefer to have picks in 27 and 28 because they're already overloaded at picks in this draft, and they don't need extra picks now. They'll need them in future drafts. But if and when a deal is done, if the Eagles had their choice, it would be post-June 1. Post-June 1. So the question that people have to ask themselves is, what team is going to be out there post-June 1 that didn't address and solve its needs in free agency or the draft? What team post-June 1 is still going to be in that market? Could New England still be in the market for a receiver June? Absolutely. Absolutely. And if they are, then A.J. Brown to New England becomes a real possibility. But New England might address the position. Like if on draft night, the Patriots use a round 1 or 2 selection on a wide receiver, that's a blow to an A.J. Brown trade happening there, in my mind. So there's still a lot to unfold here. The people who are saying that the Eagles have no interest in trading him, that would be wrong. That would be wrong. They're open. They're listening. It would have to be a good offer. They're not looking to do it, but they're open to doing it for the right offer. And for the people who are saying that it's done with New England, it's definitely not. It is definitely not. So the truth is probably somewhere right smack in the middle. And I'm not like trying to ride the fence on this. I'm just saying Philly would listen. Philly would deal him. It would have to be good. New England's the likeliest spot, but it's not done, and a lot could still change in New England.
And like you said, if they're eyeing the 2027 draft, it's not like the Patriots' 31st pick is, really wooing them into, okay, we need to hurry up and get something done here. We don't want to let a potential first-round draft pick slip through our hands. So, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's one of those things where there's enough smoke around it and nothing has really happened where it's something that we have to continue to monitor and keep an eye on. That's just the way it is. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL, so that's going to happen. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that as we get closer to the draft and as we get closer to June 1st, if that is in fact when Philly would prefer to trade him. Speaking of trade, Schefty, let's move on to the sixth and final topic of this week's six pack. If we were to get an A.J. Brown trade, That would be one.
NFL for Phil Yates' latest mock. He's got Indiana's Omar Cooper Jr. going to the Eagles at number 23 as the Philly contends with A.J. Brown and his future. Cooper is one of the most explosive players in the draft, averaging over 7 yards after the catch. And the Chiefs need a big play receiver, and Field has Arizona State's Jordan Tyson filling that void at number 9. Tyson has recorded over 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. All right, Tim and Field back here with us on SportsCenter. Field, what would Jordan Tyson bring to that Chiefs offense when Patrick Mahomes does come back to the field?
I mean, it's something it's desperately missing right now, which is explosive plays in the passing game. What I love about Jordan Tyson is that this is a player who can really stretch a defense down the field with his speed, his size, and contested catchability. But he's also exceptional when you just find ways to get the football in his hands at or near the line of scrimmage. Xavier Worthy in the first round 2 years ago, and he has not been able to tap into that literal world-class speed of 4.21 in the 40. They need to find ways to make life easier on Patrick Mahomes. They did so by signing Kenneth Walker III. They need to address the passing game next.
Yeah, and I think when you look at, what Field's talking about in terms of the speed, think about guys, Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, Xavier Worthy. The Chiefs 100% have valued speed in a way that, quite frankly, some other organizations, haven't. I think the question here ends up being, are the Chiefs okay with the injury history? Because I think it's an ACL, a collarbone, hamstrings, that you can't be in a situation if you're the Chiefs, who have struggled at the receiver position, to draft somebody high and have that guy not be available, especially in the environment that they're going to be in with Mahomes and whatever his health is and availability during practice. So I do think that, when you look at kind of durability and availability, that will also be something that the Chiefs are valuing in this process when they're looking at receivers.
Yeah, and Tyson missed 8 games down the stretch of his collegiate career with those injuries that you talked about right there, Tim. So, Tim, if the Eagles have not traded A.J. Brown by draft night, how much does drafting Omar Cooper Jr. make sense for Philly?
Well, it makes sense because they'll need a physical receiver, and I think that Cooper definitely would bring that to the table because you see the way that he plays. If you just plays receiver like a football player, and he's strong at the kind of the moment of truth, and that's important, and that's what Philadelphia would be missing. I just would say this because I feel like I've seen it every year where a team moves on from a proven wide receiver, and then they draft a wide receiver that they think will be the replacement because he's got very similar traits. But man, you see a lot of busts in the NFL at wide receiver. It's a hard position to play in the National Football League. Look, the Tennessee Titans thought that they were going to replace A.J. Brown with Treylon Burks. It didn't work that way, and there are countless other examples of situations like that. So this one's an interesting one to me because A.J. Brown, it feels like the Eagles want to move him, and for some reason it feels like stuff other than production on the field.
Yeah, and A.J. Brown seems like the kind of guy that wants to play elsewhere next season, Tim. Worth noting, and nothing America loves more than football cap nerd talk on SportsCenter, that the Eagles would have a much easier time trading A.J. Brown away after June 1st. So if they do take a player like Omar Cooper Jr. in the first round or another wide receiver in the first round, it might give us a sense that a A.J. Brown trade is likely after June 1st. The Patriots continue to be the most obvious suitor, in my opinion, for A.J. Brown's services. Omar Cooper Jr., the 13 receiving touchdowns last season, Mr. Clutch for Indiana. On top of all that he does as a pass-catching wide receiver, dirty work as well. Coaches, scouts love the way this kid blocked this past season for Indiana.
The cap nerd talk. Who said we didn't like it here on SportsCenter?
America loves it. Watch the ratings spike. It's what,
the ratings are spiking right now.
Producers are going to be like, more of that, baby. Let's go.
Tim and Phil with the latest. Thanks so much, guys.
Now to the NFL Draft. Pro days for several major programs, including Notre Dame. Theirs was this afternoon. Running back Jeremiah Love attended, did not participate. Field Yates has the Doak Walker Award winner going number 7 to the Commanders. More on that in a minute. Auburn also had their pro day this afternoon. Edge rusher Keldrick Falk has recorded 2 seasons and doesn't turn 21 years old until September. Field and Falk has going 27th to the San Francisco 49ers. Then there's also the pro day in Austin as the Texas Longhorns work out. Field has linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. projected 41st to Cincinnati. Hill Jr. tallied 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions last season. As we welcome in Field Yates and Tim Hasselbeck to break all things down heading into the draft. And Field, I want to go with Love because we've seen several mock drafts, and we've seen him as high as 4, and then we have him at 7 with you to the Commanders. Why did you slot him there?
Well, Matty, he's going to go in the first 10 picks of the upcoming draft. What I was trying to do was find a team within the top 10 that I think has a real chance to make noise in its division and potentially make the playoffs as soon as this year, because that helps justify taking a running back, a non-premium position, in the first 10 picks. And Washington did great work in free agency, adding to their defense specifically and getting that pass rush to a spot where they don't have to take a pass rusher at number 7 if one they desire is not on the board. Jeremiah Love would go to a Washington backfield where he would play, obviously, next to Jaden Daniels, but I also think that backfield does not have a player that I would say right now is a long-term answer for them. It would give you perhaps the most dynamic quarterback and running back rushing duo in the league right away and present serious offensive challenges for defenses in 2026.
Yeah, Field, it's a great point because it's interesting. We look at some of these teams who maybe have the infrastructure with the quarterback, the receivers, the offensive line. They just need an every down dominant running back, and we all expect Jeremiah Love is going to be that. So, Hasselbeck, do you expect that Love goes before that 7th pick to the Commanders?
I think there's a really good shot, Matt. And I look at, basically 3 teams. Obviously, the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. He actually is still a young quarterback. The Giants, Jackson Dart is still a young quarterback. And you look at the Tennessee Titans picking at 3. They have a young quarterback. And look, I'm kind of one of these guys. I think you can find running backs other ways than drafting them in the first round. However, if you're looking for an elite of the elite at the position, a Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, a guy like LaDainian Tomlinson, guys like that, they're worthy of being picked in the top 10 because of the impact that they can have on your offense right away as rookies. Running back is the easiest position to come in and play right away, and the impact that you can have on an offense as a rookie, touching the ball in some cases 20 or more times per game, you get immediate impact to help a young quarterback. So I think people view Love as that type of player, and I think that's why you could see him go before the Commanders at 7.
And that's just it. I think Mel had him with the Titans at 4 last time out. That would certainly be some help for their young quarterback.
All right, some breaking news in the Sports Center. Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker Levante David has announced his retirement. David spent his entire 14-year career with the Bucs, 12 of them as team captain, including the 2020 Super Bowl season. Since entering the league in 2012, David ranks first in solo tackles and second in tackles for loss.